What is going on, everybody on YouTube? Welcome to another Green Room show. Although I'm the only Green Room admin on the show right now, we've got Chris, who is in California right now. Eric's dealing with some internet issues. So we brought a few Green Room members on the show, and these aren't just any ordinary members. These are members who have a history of selling on Amazon, being successful, have added a lot of value to the group, and are personal friends of mine as well, and a lot of the other members in the Green Room. So I want to bring them on. Let's start off with Jason Clark. Why don't you introduce yourself, say hello, and let people know who you are and what you do.
Hey guys, Jason Clark here. I've been in the Green Room since right around Christmas, and been doing FBA full-time since January of last year, so about 20 months. I've been a reseller on multiple platforms for about 20 years. That goes all the way back to the first year of eBay, and happy to be here.
Awesome, man. Thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it. Like I said before the show, there's a million other things that you guys could be doing, running a business. It never ends, right? You could be working 24/7, so it means a lot to me personally, the other admins, and everyone who's watching. So thank you. Let me pass it off to Mr. Jonathan Cleta, a.k.a. the Lego Master Disaster, a.k.a. the Kingpin. The Kingpin. What's going on, man? How you doing?
What's up? Just hanging out, pursuing my full-time job of hunting Pokemon and taking care of my beard and selling on Amazon a little bit.
How long you been selling on Amazon for, and what's your track record?
I sold books on a friend's account for I guess about 8 or 9 months, and I personally sent in my FBA shipment 1 year ago on the 21st of this month, so I'm at about a little over a year.
Awesome, man. So, again, thanks, John, Jason. Appreciate you guys all coming on. For everyone who's watching live right now, this is a Green Room show. There is a live feed, so if you are on a desktop on the right-hand side, you should be able to see a whole bunch of other resellers and entrepreneurs commenting. There's a lot of value in that comment section, so go in there, say hello. Also, if you like these live shows, if you like learning and educating, which you want to know what? I tell you, the people who learn the most, the people who, what's the quote? Readers are leaders. People who educate themselves are the ones who get ahead faster. So all you guys, I want to congratulate you. Smash the like button. Leave a comment. But in any event, in today's show, we're going to be talking about a few various topics. Number one, we're going to be talking about the latest news with all of the Amazon restrictions, or at least a couple of restrictions which have occurred, but for some reason, seems like the whole community is just blowing up. So we're going to be talking about the restrictions, what it means for you on Amazon, what these sellers are planning on doing, and kind of like a little market pulse to kind of see what people are feeling and kind of how to move forward with the restrictions. Also, we're going to be talking about having a plan B. Should you have a plan B, or should you go all in on Amazon or all in on any other business? Should you have a backup plan, or should you be invested in multiple businesses, have your eggs in multiple baskets? And we're also probably going to talk about a little bit about other income streams as well. So with that being said, let's get into the outline. We got a whole bunch of questions for you guys. Also, we'll be answering questions from time to time, so I'll be peeking in. But let's get started right now. How would you guys explain to the people who are watching right now what has been happening lately with the Amazon restrictions, Jason Clark?
Well, I mean, if you guys don't know yet, a few weeks ago they came down with quite a few brands, probably 40 plus and counting. There's been some correspondence from Amazon saying that they will restrict maybe upwards of 200 plus brands. Now, these restrictions, nobody knows if they will be blanket for everybody. Nobody knows if they'll just be for certain people. What I've seen a lot is if people are fairly new to the platform or haven't sold that product, or even if they have sold that product but only for a month or two, the majority of those people that I've seen from many posts in many rooms, they have been restricted to where they need 3 wholesale invoices, that letter from the manufacturer, which is going to be the tough one, and a dollar amount, generally $1,000 or $1,500. So formidable to say the least. So nobody really knows what's coming down the pipeline, and that is the problem and why we're talking tonight. Ultimately, Amazon wants brand control, and Amazon motto is basically customer first. So I think they're nipping a big problem in the bud right now. I just don't like how they're doing it.
John, what are your thoughts on this whole situation with the restrictions and everything. Did it surprise you when, you know, these 40 brands have gotten restricted and then more coming? What were your thoughts when it happened? Because, I mean, this didn't just come out of the blue, right? Over the last couple of years, you know, categories have been gated off. I mean, there was a time when anyone could sell groceries, right? I don't think I was even selling on Amazon at the time. But you could sell groceries, you could sell health and beauty, all these things that weren't gated off. And I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, but did the categories start getting gated off before the actual specific brands started getting gated off, John?
They did, and and this was actually mostly before my time, but from what I understand, it pretty much happened around this time last year, I believe. I could be wrong there. Jason, maybe you could nod your head on that one. Is it around this time? Basically, from what I've seen in my limited time and what I've read, Amazon does big rule changes around this time of year, and they do fee changes around February. So it was not totally, because they want to get it all done before Q4. They don't want to mess with it during Christmas any more than we do. So Amazon's been wild, wild west for a while. There was even a point, I think it was November or December, where all of the Nike listings got restricted for like a day or two. So that was kind of a sign they were testing. So I was not totally shocked. The fact they did so many brands so fast, and I just kept getting messages, and, you know, people were like, the sky is falling, everything's going down. And I personally have not been restricted, but there are one or two brands on that list like Nike, you know, I would lose, you know, tens of thousands of dollars if they did get restricted, if I do wind up getting restricted, which very well may happen. So I would say that I saw it coming to a degree. There's no way you can be totally prepared. Amazon is trying to protect their customer and their platform, which of course, you know, I get. They did come across fairly heavy-handed, but then again, if they stop where they are now, it was fairly fair. They seem to have mainly restricted people who were not selling those particular items, but a lot of people say they won't stop. This is just the beginning. So unfortunately, there's just a lot of non-information out there at this point.
Jason, you mentioned that, you know, Amazon wants to protect their brand, and if anybody's been following Amazon, and, you know, you've been selling on Amazon, you know that Amazon, their main motive, in my opinion, for anything that they do is always protecting their brand, their reputation, because essentially my thoughts are they're really trying to take over the whole market, and I feel like they realize that the easiest way to do that is to gain the trust of every single person and to give amazing customer service. So what are your thoughts on this, man? Do you feel like, Jason, people are overreacting to this? And also, what do you think the main reason is for this? Like, really nail down the main reason you feel like they're restricting these brands and whatnot.
Are people overreacting? Yes and no, and I would be the first one in the room to say I overreacted probably for about 48 hours until my good friend Jonathan Cleater kind of talked me off a ledge there. Nobody likes to have, you know, somebody else take them out of the, you know, the sandbox and mess up their sandcastle and things like that. And you know, when you get to a point where, like for myself at least, I'm full time, I work my ass off. You know, I have a lot of capital invested, a lot of inventory, and I wouldn't want to have a major shakeup. But that does happen from time to time in business, and you know, it really does make you look inward and see what you can do to maybe protect yourself a little bit better. And you had mentioned brands, so the first thing everybody's thinking of is brands, Nike, Under Armour, whatever. Yes. No, Amazon, the brand itself. Amazon is a brand. Why do we sell on Amazon? Because it's a kick-ass brand. Why? Because they've got a great Prime brand and great customer service. They have an outstanding return policy, which is why most people want to buy from them. So not only are we worried about the actual physical apparel brands and things like that, Amazon is the brand first, and they don't want their company to come crashing down. Now think about if you have a private label product or you're considering private label, that is your brand. So before you throw up your hand and go, well, that's not fair. Well, maybe how they did it may have not been the nicest way to bring all these restrictions out, but at the end of the day, if you were Mr. Nike or you had your brand and somebody jumps on your listing, which happens now, for private label people, it's the same scenario. You want somebody coming in your sandbox and kicking sand in your face at 50 cents on the dollar or whatever, and ruining your brand and sending counterfeit goods and shipping late and really just ruining it for everybody. So we have to think, you know, this is not our platform, and we really have to understand that. And I think when things are good and we're rocking and rolling for a year and there's no major hiccups, we start to lose sight of that until something like this happens and we all get smacked in the face. And some of us are prepared more than others when it does happen, but I think how you react to it is most important.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And I've only been in business for about 3 years. You know, Obviously, I have a YouTube channel, which is a whole platform in itself. I've done Kindle publishing, eBay, Amazon. I know you guys have experienced a lot of other platforms. That's the thing. When you're on another person's platform, another company's platform, you have to play by their rules. And I feel like a big thing that we all need to work on is our mindset. We almost have to expect that it's going to change. And, when things change, the cream of the crop, they rise to the top. And the people that are just kind of goofing off and it's kind of a hobby and they're not really taking it serious, I almost feel like they fall quick. What are your thoughts on that, John?
I mean, certainly to a degree. I mean, like I said, right now with some of these restrictions, it's going to cut, some people who have not been as aggressive out of the market a little bit. But I mean, yeah, I think at the end of the day, you have two choices. You can kind of sit at home and say this is the end of the world. You can take a cautious approach. I've certainly taken some semi-drastic steps to deal with this, but at the same time, I'm still very enthusiastic. I still think Amazon is a great platform. So really, it comes down to, are you going to? I personally am not a super enthusiastic person. I don't think it's a healthy attitude to be like everything's great, everything's fine. It's not. It's a problem. There is a problem here. But my mindset is there's a problem we have to fix if we want to stay in business. So I think the fear is not the answer, and I think just to pretend like everything okay is not the answer. It's more to say, how am I going to look at my business, take what's going on, and I can allow it to crush me, or I can allow it to show me which direction my business needs to go, which is what I'm really striving for. Because at the end of the day, a year, 2 years, 3 years from now, it's going to be 5 times harder. There's going to be 5 times more restriction. And I would say at the end of the day, you're either making your own product or you have a direct deal with the manufacturer for your product, or anything can happen.
So there seems to be two leading schools of thought right here. A lot of people are saying that they're restricting it because they want to protect their brand. I'm talking about the Amazon brand. And that's being affected because there's a lot of counterfeits coming in. There's sellers who are kind of destroying it. And what a lot of people don't understand is when a customer comes onto Amazon, and feel free to disagree if you guys don't agree, but when a customer comes onto Amazon and they buy a Nike shirt, if they get it and it's fake, they're not pissed off at Nike. They're pissed off at Amazon. Would you guys agree with that statement?
I mean, if I personally would, Amazon, I don't know, eBay has kind of ran into that issue. Like, there are some categories on eBay most people, including myself, would be very leery to shop in, because I would assume there's about a 50-50 chance I'm getting a genuine product. And Amazon's reputation is everything to them. Like, they take the hit a lot of times. If a scammer runs off with your money, Amazon will still pay you your refund. So Amazon cares about their brand more than, they don't care about Lego. They don't care about Nike. They care about Amazon. And at the end of the day, by caring about Lego, they're caring about Amazon. So at the end of the day, I would say the brand owners are probably not that much happier than we are, because they didn't do this for them. They did it for Amazon, which is smart.
Jason, do you feel that the restrictions are also coming about because Amazon is strategically trying to kind of push away the third-party sellers to dominate these wholesale relationships and to be able to control these listings? Do you think that has anything to do with it?
That's a good question. At the end of the day, Amazon is a for-profit company. And
hello.
Hey, Robert, how are you?
Hello.
What's up, Robert?
Let me jump back in there. At the end of the day, Amazon's a for-profit company and a damn good one at that. And they make a tremendous amount of money on their platform. If you think about, their selling platform is only a portion of what they do. They obviously do other things and expanding as they go. We are helping evolve their culture. We're helping evolve their company. And, at the end of the day, they just want us to play fair. Imagine if none of us sent in any inauthentic items, any counterfeit items. Imagine none of us ever did not reply back to a customer within 24 hours for a message. Imagine none of us ever did that. Amazon, the doors would be wide open. They basically have been wide open, and that's the problem. They've, in my opinion, they've kept it too wide open for too long. But on the flip side, yes, they have done some bad things with letting many people get away with murder. There's been obviously a lot of postings of companies in China that have thousands of negative feedback before their accounts shut down and offering 30 days to ship. I'm sorry, if you go to a bank today and you're 18 years old and you've never had a job and you ask for a $100,000 loan, they're going to look at your background, your credit, your portfolio, your work history, your experience, so to speak, and say, you know what, we think you're an upstanding guy and this and that. We're going to give you a $300 student credit card. We're going to start you off on a very short lease, and you're going to have to earn it. So the fact that they allowed some of these things happen really boggles my mind, that we are all paying the price for it today, to allow a company to ship thousands of items and take in millions of dollars for 30 days without getting paid is a glaring hole, and I don't know why they did that, but that's obviously just one of the problems. But you know, we're all in this together, and unfortunately, the system will never be perfect. But they're at least, I like the fact that at least they're proactively trying to fix it. Once again, I don't like exactly how they did it, but I think 6 months from now, when all the dust settles, people will figure out where the holes are in the strategies, and everybody will be fine.
Excellent response. So we have another Green Room member who just joined on N, and I want to introduce Robert Banera's Green Room member, someone who's been adding a lot of value within the room, and a personal friend of mine, and a lot of other people as well. So why don't you say hello to everybody, Robert? Who are you?
Hello.
Yeah.
I do my best not to get kicked out of the green room. That's about it.
Do better.
It's not, and it's hard too. because
Some days it's hard. Some days it's very hard.
His posts get reported. No, I'm just kidding.
Not half, maybe a third. And
I'm
John
not reporting
reports
enough
most of
then.
them.
I report most of them. We're going to get you kicked off, bro. Give me time.
How long you been selling on Amazon, man, and what do you mostly focus on?
Probably closing in on 2 years this November. I'm all over the board, really. I've been focusing a lot more on health and personal care. How's it sound? Can you hear me well? I mean, I don't hear any echo.
Good.
You're pretty loud.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's pretty much what I mean, I'm all over the board. I do a little bit of grocery. I'm trying to get into more grocery, but it's just, I have so many other replens to pick up that I just don't have time to start looking into grocery as much as I really should. As far as the restrictions, who cares?
Wow, who cares? Because I was gonna, we've kind of been chatting already for about 20 minutes, talking about our take and the good and the bad per se. Has this affected your business at all? And with that response,
no, it hasn't. I mean, I've got 2 old listings for Nike Flyknits get restricted that I don't have stock in and haven't had for a while. I mean, I can't sell a few things like Cuisinart and La Crusette, which I was a little annoyed that got outed in the green room. I made a few $1,000s several months ago on it. But, I mean, the stock was already gone, so it was no big deal. But, I mean, I can't sell anymore because it's too easy to fake, so they restricted it completely. But whatever, you move on. Really, I haven't seen anything that I sell regularly get restricted for me. I think the whole restriction thing, regardless of where it goes in the future, whether we're grandfathered or not, which I think we are all grandfathered in, I think it's just more opportunity. I mean, I just think that the prices are going to stay propped up. I mean, it's pretty obvious. I mean, with any industry, the minute there's more regulation, those who are in there are going to make more money, and those who are, it's not so easy anymore.
how can people discover if they're restricted or not restricted on a particular category or brand, Robert?
I mean, that's if you've been selling for any length of time,
For the new
more than
people.
a month, yeah. You just use a seller app. I mean, a lot of people in the past have relied on Scan Power or
Scoutify.
I don't know, Scoutify, and they just before you took your chances whether you're restricted or not, and maybe there was a 5% chance something you bought was restricted, and you just got annoyed when you got home about it. Now, it could be anywhere. You really, I remember in the green room there was a post not too long ago about people complaining that before all these restrictions came out, they were like, now, you mean I really have to scan with Scoutify or with Scan Power and with the seller app? You know how long that would take me? And it's just like, this is part of doing business. You gotta do it the right way. You find it, at first it's cumbersome or whatever, and then you find a way to be more efficient about it. That said, as you grow your business, if you're constantly having to scan new things, at some point you start developing a lot of replens or a lot of stores you constantly go to, so you don't need to rescan the same item that you've been selling for the last 6 months. necessarily. You just run in there, pick it up, and get out. It's really the only way you realized you've grown your business, when you start having stuff you constantly go back for.
That's a good point. Now this is going to lead into a really big question, and this is probably the one question on this whole entire outline that I have that I'm like really, really interested to hear what your comments are and what your opinion is, especially Mr. Cleater, because I know you're big into retail arbitrage. We were talking a lot behind the scenes in Austin, Texas, and I've been learning a lot about your business. So, you know, we're coming into September, and October, November, December, Q4. This is when, you know, retail sales go through the roof. With these restrictions occurring, and with it almost being to the point where you never know if a brand's going to get restricted, which Robert just mentioned, how is that going to affect you going deep into a product? Are you going to switch up your game plans to going more wide, or what are your thoughts on it? Let's start with Mr. Cleater. How is this going to affect your Q4 buying, knowing that these restrictions are kind of coming out of the woodworks?
Well, and as I've already posted in the green room, in order to diversify, I created my training course, Mastering the McNugget, and that's for everyone who needs to go work at McDonald's after this. Robert, I have a spot open for you, buddy. But
I thought you were doing a Pokemon course.
That's only for higher level people who have the knowledge in the Lamborghini. But
once you broke in the sixth seal, you can join the Pokemon course.
Exactly. But all kidding aside, I have actually taken a pretty drastic step, and what I have done is, as you know, I have probably 3 employees, and so what I've done is I've actually put all 3 of those employees on my 2 part-timers. I'm going to still pay them, but they're going to take some time off, and then my full-timer, she is going to work on research with me. And then today we just hired somebody away from Wells Fargo that's going to full-time. All she's going to do is look for private label and wholesale products for me, and also set up eBay listings for me. So basically for the month October, we're kind of stepping back a little bit. We're not going to do a lot of buying. Most of the buying that we have done has been in like the categories like grocery and lawn and garden, categories I feel very safe about, because we have all these processes we're putting for place. And if by August 3rd, nothing new has happened, I say that we're going to keep buying, very safe stuff up till then. But if everything is still the same, then I'm just going to move ahead with business as usual.
You mean October 3rd?
October 3rd.
You said August 3rd.
Well,
August 3rd. Yeah.
Time is not important when you work at McDonald's, Robert. So just calm down. But yeah, I would say that for the most part, I'm just taking a step back. We're putting together the infrastructure to really have the people to focus on. I've hired 2 more people. We're going to, really focus on the research side that we have been slacking on, and then, come October, we'll double down on Q4, and I'll put all my cards on the table, put all my chips in the middle, and worst case scenario, I lose some money and I go live with Jason. So things happen.
That couch is comfortable.
It is pretty comfortable, except when Jameson tries to snuggle with you. That's awkward.
There's just not enough space.
There really isn't.
What are your thoughts, Jason, on Mr. Cleater's approach? Are you doing something similar? I know you are a little bit more wholesale and PL, which you can talk about if you'd like. Are you going to be hitting RA hard? What are your thoughts on that? What's your game plan? Whatever you want to talk about.
Well, and I need everybody who's watching the feed to listen to what I say. It's not about what I'm going to do. It's about what you're going to do, because your situation is completely unique to you, and that's not a speech. It's not a pump-up speech. That's the truth. Me and Jonathan are on similar levels in many ways, but we have a slightly different business model. Me and Robert are about same levels, but we have slightly different business models, and we need to react accordingly to what we have in the house, so to speak, where you want to go. Just because if we had the same exact stuff and the same approach, our goals and our timelines and our periods may be different. So, don't try to diversify from your dreams and your goals and how long it's going to get there. So take accountability of where you're at right now, your product, the brands, how much you got in one brand, this and that. Q4 is a huge opportunity for everybody, and I believe it still will be if you want it to be, and if you're willing to put in the work. Q4 wasn't going to just pay for itself. You were going to have to bust ass anyway, so just keep that in mind. So as far as for me, I've already canceled some wholesale orders. I've received some wholesale orders from ASD that I got the email that were restricted for me, and I cannot list them anymore, but they were pulling them. They're still up for sale, and they're still selling very fast. I actually reduced the price in those a couple of days once I got that email to just slightly above cost after fees, and they've been selling really well. I think I sold 20% of the inventory in the last 2 days alone. So that was reactionary to that. At the end of the day, I'd rather liquidate, if you're talking thousands of dollars in one brand or one item, I'd rather liquidate it out and at least get that money back in the kitty and reallocate that towards something else. Now, being about 50% into wholesale and growing, that's a challenge for me because every time I buy something, it's 1,000, 4,000, 10,000, whatever on an order. And generally, a lot of times that's one brand. Not always, but one time. So you're asking yourself to put a significant amount of capital in one brand that, even though I'm not restricted in at the moment, other people have already been restricted in the last few weeks, and are they coming in waves and doing it? Nobody knows. So I would rather be a little bit cautious and go wider than deeper on any brand and any specific SKU as well. Because even if you buy a SKU, one specific SKU, and it's super, super deep, if they go restricted, it's just going to take you that much longer to sell through. Also, I've already moved into the Walmart platform. I'm finishing up my the application is in the finishing process to go on that platform. I've also had to dig out good old eBay that I've been on for 20 years, but not really pushed that much this year. So I've been listing like a fiend on eBay. Stephen Billings mentioned something today about doing PPC in eBay. I'm sorry, maybe it was Stephen or Greg Wendell, can't remember, but I'm doing PPC now the last few weeks on Amazon, and the results are actually pretty good as I continue to tweak it and learn that process. And from what I hear, eBay is a lot easier and cheaper and not being as used as much. I don't know, but I'll go ahead and try that. So I'm not buying anything for a few weeks. Luckily for me, I've got that nasty eBay pile, the Amazon return pile, the wholesale is now restricted pile. I got piles for days, guys. You guys want to come over, we'll have a pile party. So I've been doing nothing but busting my ass in this house for the last week, listing eBay, getting stuff out, getting those returns processed and shipped back into Amazon if they're able to be processed. And I had a lot more money sitting here than I thought, so that's a good thing. So August was amazing. September will be amazing just because I have so much product still from the wholesale shows and from everything else. But no spending for the next week or so. I do have some unique opportunities coming up near the end of the month that will carry me through. But it's just kind of wait and see right now. I'll definitely be doing some RA for sure, but once again, not too deep on anything.
Yeah, I like how you said you're attacking your piles. For anybody who's going to be taking a step back, there's plenty of other things that you can do. And I know you've got a pile. Yeah, I'm talking to you. You watching this video. I'm sure you've got a pile. If it's not next to you, it's probably in your room or in your garage. So attack.
Can you see that much? There's no pile here. No
pile, man.
Pile here.
So, Mr. I Don't Care, a.k.a. Robert, man, Mr. I Don't Care About Restrictions. What are your thoughts on this little Q4?
The first thing I did want to mention about restrictions, just to step back a little bit, was I talked at length to a couple of seller support reps, and one of them was frontline, and the other one was very knowledgeable in the catalog department, and basically both of them said the same thing. If you want some change in Amazon, because they record everything that Tina calls, and everything's about statistics at Amazon, you have to voice your complaint about what's going on right now. Amazon's not like Google where they do no evil. Amazon just does what they think is most efficient. They're all about efficiency, and making money, like Jason said. So if you want them to listen and change their practice, you have to voice a complaint when you call them about this while you're calling them about a return or someone scamming you or something. Anyway, enough about that. I'm similar to Jason in that I've got piles for days, and I'm not necessarily stopping my buying because of these restrictions. I'm stopping my buying because I've bought too much. Like, I need to attack these piles. I just got 2 pallets worth of wholesale order in my 1-bedroom apartment, which I'm actually leaving at the end of the month. At the end of September, I'm moving into a much bigger place, but I got to get rid of these wholesale orders first and these other piles of stuff, plus 3 months worth of Amazon returns, which I've barely looked at. So I'm only stepping back simply because I need to attack these piles. And I think I've got enough inventory in there to keep the machine going. And I had a pretty good month this month, surprisingly. That said, if something gets restricted, move on. Like I said before, move on or get a wholesale order that will get you unrestricted. Learn the process. It's not – the gold rush is over. Now you got to actually put some – more elbow grease into it. As far as my specific plan, I am going to say I am going to do probably what the opposite of most people are looking to do, and I'm actually probably going to go back to working full time at a firm that I just interviewed with if I get this job because
McDonald's.
yep, you got it. No, just because I kind of miss it a little bit, but at the same time, with a family, I need a little bit of stability there. Am I slowing down on my Amazon business? Probably not. I probably slow down a little bit, or I will outsource it. Who knows? I may try to spring up partnerships for my replens because I have replens for days. I mean, it's just people complain about not being able to find them. They are everywhere. You find out where to buy them. They're there for a week, they're there for a month, they disappear, and they come back next quarter. But they're there for days. And it's not just simply buying cheap wholesale and selling for 100% markup or something. There's deals there if you just want to do RA, and they won't. And I don't think they'll ever get restricted. So as far as my plan goes, I'm not really worried about my store getting restricted or whatever. That said, if I ever get suspended, I'll just declare bankruptcy.
So with that being said, right there, we are at about the halftime show right now, 9:35, and I'll tell you guys right now, this is an awesome show so far. We've got about 200 people watching live right now. So if you are a Green Room member watching live right now, Jason, what should they say? What comments should they leave right now to let us know as an indicator that they are a Green Room member?
Put your name in there, put Green Room, hit the like button, hit the thumbs up if you like it. If you don't like it, hit the thumbs down, and you better put why you put the thumbs down, because if you're going to call us out, you better tell us why. So just let us know you're representing, guys.
Yeah, we definitely appreciate you guys all watching right now, and one of the main reasons why I've continued to do YouTube and I make so many videos, and I know this is a reason why these guys are on the show and they're active in the Green Room, it's because networking is probably one of the best ways to get ahead in business. I mean, has there ever been a time, John, where you've talked to somebody in the Green Room or outside of the Green Room where you were able to learn something that helped your business, even if it was 1%?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, certainly I have a great group with Jason and Robert. Hurt a little bit to say Robert, but I'm going to do it. I'm gonna do it. And Devin and Jameson, they're all awesome. And certainly, Helen Kinson and I talk a lot. She's great. And I do want to give a shout out because I see that Gerald is in the chat, and I really was impressed by the fact he got gated in DVD. That is something I have not attained yet. So I've been reaching out to some contacts and some connections that I have to see what it would take to do that. So
I need to see some sale posts to see proof of this.
Are you guys not ungated in DVD, or none of you guys are ungated?
I don't impress easily, and that impressed me. So yeah, that was awesome. But
so none of you guys are ungated in DVD.
I'm at the $25 level. So
I'm at the $25 level.
Because I'm ungated in everything.
But are you at the $25 level?
Ungated in everything. It used to be. Like a year
ago,
You're
grandfathered in, probably.
But the weird thing is, a year ago, I would scan all the DVDs and they were all blocked off. And now, anything, it's all up for grabs. So it's so weird. Weird.
Fame.
Yeah, I called somebody and I was like, listen,
this is Raiken.
I have this YouTube channel. They're an army. No, but all jokes aside, appreciate you guys watching live. 200 people. We're gonna start transitioning now into the second phase. We talked about the restrictions, and now we're going to talk about a phase that I didn't talk about this with these guys. I don't know if they're going to agree with me or they're going to disagree, but that's the beauty of having this open discussion, is having a plan B. I know there's really two schools of thoughts. There's a lot of people who say, go for one thing, focus on it 100%, burn the ships behind you, give yourself no other option but to succeed. And then there's other people who say, diversify, minimize your risk, put some attention here, some attention there. Let's talk about this question right now. Should people have a plan B in general, but even more specifically, is it smart to be 100% Amazon, Robert?
I am currently 100% Amazon. Like I said, I'm not terribly worried. That said, I already mentioned my plan. Well, Amazon was always my plan B. And it's moving back into my plan B because, simply put, I miss my former career a little bit, more so in terms of the challenge. in terms of the intellectual challenge, in terms of, simply be able to, go in at 9 and leave at 5 and be done for the day sometimes. Not to say I'm lazy. I mean, I roll out of bed and I'm working, and I'm done working when I roll into bed, so to speak, most days. Like most of you guys, Like I messaged Jason last night. I was like, 3 a.m., perfect time to organize my coupons.
Yes, he did.
And it just becomes part of who you are when you do this kind of business, I suppose. But at the same time, I want to do something different for a little while. Not that I'm stepping away from Amazon. I thoroughly enjoy the chase. I would be completely lost if they closed down RA, because that's the fun part. I mean, is it really fun putting wholesale orders in? You're done in 3 minutes. I mean, that's like prom night.
Somebody just left a comment. I'm going to throw this out to Jason, get him a little worked up right now. Somebody left a comment saying, in all caps, right? This wasn't lowercase. There wasn't like one cap and then the rest lowercase. I mean, this was all caps. I couldn't miss this comment. Comes from Bliss. I don't know. Bliss T. Amazon is for lazy people.
Someone's just trying to rile us up.
You know what? I want to know specifically who that person is.
It's probably Jameson. He has another account.
Tomorrow I'll be posting my numbers, my real numbers for the month, not as a brag, is with some talking behind it to tell you what I had to do to go through to get to where I got to for this month. And I assure you, my friend Mr. Bliss or Mrs. Bliss, there is no lazy involved. I assure you, the last 2 weeks are the hardest 2 weeks I've worked the entire year. I assure you, I'm tired. I've gained weight this month. I could even say I'm miserable, but I'm fired up, and I hit my goals, and I'm going to even it out in September. So lazy is not the word. And with all these restrictions coming on, I have busted my ass to diversify, to spread my risk. I have taken losses. I have sold for a loss to get some of my product out and get my capital realigned. So I assure you, it's not about being lazy. I understand where you're going with that. I lose money on products every single day, and that's business, and that's
amateur.
Okay. So it's not about being lazy. I don't care if you're just doing Etsy, do it at 100%. I don't care if you're doing eBay, do it at 100%. If you're doing Amazon, do whatever you do. Be a parent at 100%. So whatever you do, don't be lazy. So.
Are you 100% Amazon? Do you have any plan Bs? Do you have any other, and again, I don't want to get into anything too personal into your business, it's none of my business, but do you believe in having multiple income streams, having a plan B, or do you think it's smart to go 100% Amazon?
I wouldn't say the word smart is good to go into anything 100% as far as business is concerned, but it can be optimal. Now, when there are disruptions in there, I think it's okay to go 100% if you can absorb any of the distractions that come to the marketplace, including getting your account banned. Can you afford the time period of not having that income coming in on your biweekly check? Can you afford to pay your bills, to pay your mortgage, to put food on the table for your family? Can you afford to wait for Amazon to lock your money up for a couple of months and to wait a month or so for you to get all that product back? Can you afford that time it's going to take to list it and liquidate it and move it on other platforms that may take longer and get less money? So if you can afford those things and you're okay with it, then it's still optimal to do business if you're doing business in an optimal way on an optimal platform. But is it smart? Not necessarily. As far as myself, like I said, I've moved onto the Walmart platform. At least I'm hoping to here any day now. It looks like I'm getting through, which I've heard some people having some issues with getting approved for that. Also, I do some other things on the side I don't want to discuss that do bring in income, and I'm okay with diversifying any way that I can. So, yes, it is a wake-up call for a lot of people, including myself.
Jonathan, do you feel that thrifting, garage sales, retail arbitrage is a lot riskier in terms of, liability or getting kicked off or brand restriction versus private label or wholesale? If someone's looking to get started right now and they're worried about restrictions, plan Bs, all that stuff, suspensions, is retail arbitrage, thrifting, garage selling, all that stuff, buying secondhand stuff more risky than the private label wholesale arena, in your opinion?
That's kind of a tough question because, I mean, strictly on the face of it, I mean, if you compare them apples to apples, I mean, you took your one private label product and your one, such and such item you bought at a yard sale. Yes, the yard sale item is more risky. But if you buy them at a yard sale, you have, what, $5, $10, $20, $100 invested in the item. Whereas if you make a private label purchase, you can be, $1,000, $3,000, $5,000 into that one item. So in some ways, you put the risk in a different place. On the Amazon end, yes, you're probably much less risky with the private label item. On a personal financial or a business financial end, the private label is going to be a bigger challenge. If you're a new seller and your sourcing budget is, $1,000, $2,000, $5,000, I really don't recommend you just go spend it all on one product, because if that product doesn't do well, you're done. So yeah, there's some risk to what you're buying at the yard sale, but at least if that product doesn't work out, if you get restricted, you're out $5. Whereas if you get restricted in your private label brand, you're out significantly more than that. So when you become a larger seller, like I'm looking to diversify, that's a little bit different story. But you have to look at it as there's Amazon risk, but there's also your own personal financial risk. And you should never, ever, ever, in my personal opinion, have more than, and this is even high, and I would try not to do this, but even if the deal is fantastic, have 20% of your sourcing inventory or budget in one SKU or one brand, if at all possible. I mean, I will say I've probably broken that rule, and I'm probably closer to 15% in the brand that I think is the most dangerous of being restricted. And obviously, Lego is a big one for me. But you really need to look at diversity in your inventory as being more important than just seeing private label as it'll save you, because there's still risks there, and those risks are on a much larger scale. So, I mean, that's just my personal opinion.
John, Lego's been restricted.
I heard. I'm not restricted yet.
Robert, how do you protect your account versus inauthentic claims? Do you hold all your receipts? Is there anything?
I have every single receipt. It's scanned. That said, I try to be very preventative about inauthentic claims. I rarely sell high-end brands. I mean, I stopped selling Coach stuff a few months ago. I think I have one pair of Coach sneakers left in my inventory that just won't leave, so they may actually get pulled down and given to one of my sisters. My prep is way above and beyond what Amazon requires, and probably people would think I'm wasting time sometimes. I clean up every box. I'm very preventative with it. In terms of worrying about inauthentic claims. I also think inauthentic claims are more prone when you're selling like cell phone accessories and electronics. I try to stay away from them. I stay towards more generic stuff. You're rarely going to get an inauthentic claim on a toy. On health and personal care, it's rare. Although everyone's heard the Cynthia Stein's soap bar horror story, which I'm sure it has happened, but it's absolutely ridiculous that you couldn't get a rep in Amazon that would find out that would realize how ridiculous that inauthentic claim is. You really just have to take a professional approach. If you get an inauthentic claim, you've got to handle it professionally. And if you can't string, words together in the English language in a professional and intelligent and concise way, hire someone to do it for you. Don't think that you can put together a story and send it to Amazon and think you're going to get your way. I mean, you can do whatever you want up until you got to deal with seller performance. And then it's, you're either at the mercy of the guys in India reviewing you, or God, you can hope to God you get somebody smart in Seattle who's handling your case. Because the guys in India, you're just, oh God, you're just going to be submitting the same stuff over and over and over again. So it's really preventative on my part. It should be preventative for everyone. You can't really you can't really know how you're going to handle it until you have to handle it. I mean, that said, I've dealt with 2 suspensions in my 2.5 years selling on Amazon. The first time, I'm surprised we did it all on our own. I'm surprised how well we handled it. We wordsmithed that document to death. The second time, it was just it was bullshit, and we just kind of handled it very quickly. We got unsuspended in like a week.
Hey, Steve, let me jump in there on this one. So literally right before we started our broadcast tonight, I've been going back and forth with a gentleman who bought a pair of shoes for me a week ago. He'd actually bought 2 different pairs of shoes, one from me and one from a different seller of different colors. And he kept emailing me, hey, my shoes haven't arrived. They're a couple days late. Let me check, whatever. And I says, well, he didn't give me the order ID and whatever. And I finally, back and forth 3 or 4 times over the last 2 days, and I finally got it, and I looked it up, and I go, it was delivered 2 days ago, and he kept emailing back and forth, and there was a communication issue, meaning he's not very good at communicating. Like Robert said, he couldn't put words together and this and that. Now, he did obviously buy from me, but what happened is he's not looking at the facts. I gave him the tracking number. He says it's not there. I says, you have the wrong person. Go check. He's like, oh, I'm sorry. It was the other pair. My apology. An hour later, he comes back and says, it's me again. And I go, no, you keep messaging the wrong person. It's the other guy. And then he starts sending emails to me going, I'm going to file a claim. This literally happened 2 minutes before we started this broadcast. I'm not worried about it because I can very easily show the tracking information, whatever. He's preaching about the wrong pair. But my point is answer your buyer messages. You have 24 hours to reply to them anyways. That goes against your metrics. Keep screwing around with that, they will shut your account down. My point is not to just do the right thing to answer messages. If there's a problem like this joker I'm dealing with today, he could very easily go in there and maybe file an inauthentic claim and put you in a world of hate. Just do it. Do your job. If you want to sell on this platform, answer your messages. Everybody has a cell phone. If you can't answer your messages within 24 hours, then leave the platform. Imagine that was you who got the wrong pair of shoes, and you emailed somebody, and you couldn't get them to reply back to you. Just do the right thing, and sometimes you're going to deal with psychos. Another reason to answer your messages. I answer them every 2 hours, almost like clockwork. Yes, I'm higher volume, so I'm constantly looking at it or listing or whatever. So yes, I'm on my account often throughout the day. Maybe unlike some people in here that maybe only check it once a day. That's fine. Just check it once a day. You're required to anyways. Nip the problem in the bud. Give them a refund if that's the case. There's nothing worse than a pissed off customer, and a pissed off customer could cost you your account.
So that's one big thing you mentioned right there, and in order to kind of have checks and balances to make sure that your metrics and your account is healthy, which is super important. But Jason, and I want to hear what Jonathan and Robert have to say as well. What are a couple more habits and rituals that you carry out on a regular basis to assure that your metrics and your account is nice and healthy?
I wanted to jump in real quickly with what Jason's handling here, and just sort of segue a little bit into a post. There was a post in the green room, and this comes up a lot in other groups too, about somebody messaging you saying they don't like the item, blah blah blah, they'd like to return it, blah blah blah. And some people always suggest send them to Amazon, let Amazon handle your returns, you know. And for an automatic return that the buyer never messages you on, by all means, you know, obviously you're going to get involved because you don't know they're going to return it. But if a buyer communicates with you and expresses a desire to return the item, and you send them to Amazon to do the return, they have the opportunity to click a reason for that return. Correct. And, you know, that drop-down has the inauthentic reason on it. Yep. Do you really want to give them the opportunity to do that? The minute any buyer expresses desire for a return or expresses, you know, any kind of doubt about the product, I immediately jump into refund them plus $5 mode. You know, and that mitigates the problem 100% every time. Do not think you could just let Amazon handle your returns if a buyer has reached out to you specifically. You do not want to mitigate that risk. Take the loss on the item, take the $5 loss, and you will have a happy customer who 50% of the time will leave you positive feedback regardless of how bad the item was. And I've got plenty of feedback on my store where they complain about the item, but they say I'm a great seller, and they gave me 5 stars. So never let Amazon handle your returns if a buyer has reached out to you, is my point with that. Anyway, back to topic at hand. I just wanted to segue because I heard Jason mention that.
Absolutely.
I'm glad you jumped into that because, to be honest with you, I've never done that before, and I've kind of pushed them aside to Amazon as well. I've never had any issues, but
you're lucky you never had any issues, but you gave those buyers an opportunity. Yep.
You're right. No, you're right.
Take away that opportunity. Once you refund them, they don't have the opportunity to file a claim. It's harder. They have to directly contact Amazon to do it. They can't click, I want to return this anymore.
No, great point right there. So back to what I was saying before, Jason, what are some other habits and rituals that you practice on a regular basis to assure that your account, your Amazon account, and your metrics are nice, clean, and healthy?
Well, click on your Performance tab at the top of Seller Central, and then click on Account Health. Look at all your metrics one by one. They're all important to Amazon, whether you're able to sell moving forward. Also, very important, check your returns. Check all your returns. Go back as far as January. That's fine, and then put them in an Excel file or something. and then sort them by name. So if you see a consistent pattern of returns of one specific item, 3, 4, 5, 6, there may be a problem. Look at each and what reason for return. You may have an item that is defective, that just wasn't made good by the manufacturer, and you're getting a lot of problems. You're asking for a problem. I learned that trick early in the year, and now I do it on a monthly basis, and it's just rolling. So if I see a lot within a couple-month period, and I still got 4, 5, or 10 in stock, I got to look at that product and say, is this worth keeping up for sale? Should I pull it down and liquidate it, throw it away, whatever, move it elsewhere? That will keep you in good shape. Obviously, when you're dealing with beauty and grocery, you've got to look at your expiration dates and stuff when you're sending in. Particularly on beauty, a lot of beauty products don't have an expiration date. They have a batch code, which you can look up online on CheckFresh or cosmetics.net, I believe, or whatever. And you can punch that in there. It'll tell you the manufacturer date when it was made and the best by date of when it's technically not really good. It's not technically expired, but it basically, you should pull it off the shelf. And you're looking at problems with freshness, whether it's a cologne like a spray or a lotion or something, or a powder. People are putting this on their skin and on their face, and it can cause color changes and reactions. So that's why those dates are put on, because chemicals do change over a couple years, and you don't know from manufacturer to distributor to wholesaler to you to retail, however you got that product, it could have changed hands 4 or 5 times and been 4 or 5 different temperatures. And with chemicals, particularly if they're in heat, it speeds up the process of degradation. It breaks it down, thus speeding up that so-called expiration date. So I no longer source any beauty products within a couple of months of that so-called window. I don't care how good the deal is. Just move on to something else. There's plenty of product.
Anything else that Jason missed, Jonathan, in terms of keeping your Amazon account healthy or clean, or maybe how you react to a negative feedback or anything along those lines?
Well, I mean, I think everything they said there is pretty accurate. You try to be proactive as opposed to reactive. I try to use, like, for example, Feedback Genius, where, you know, it normally sends out emails requesting feedback, and I'm trying to structure that in such a way that when it emails the customer, instead of really trying to get feedback, it asks them, hey, were you happy with your purchase? Was everything good? And that way, hopefully, I can hear about a problem before it gets to Amazon and I can fix it. Keep an eye on your returns. There is a section you can go into Seller Central. You can go into orders, and you can actually pull a list of your returns. I believe it's under FBA reports, and you can actually go and see the reason for the return. And what I like to do is pull those into a spreadsheet and look at the reason for my returns. And if I see multiple returns for item not as described or item not complete, you know, ones that would be my fault and Amazon would see as my fault, you know, I'm going to pull that item home and take a look at it. So anything you can do to proactively head off problems, and certainly like the messages. Of course, you should reply within 24 hours. I shoot to be like immediately. That way, because it's an average of how fast you reply. So if you reply to most of your messages within a couple of minutes to an hour, it'll really help your average if you have one that you run a little bit late on. So, you know, don't hit that no response needed button unless it's absolutely clear. I assume Amazon bots are the ones reading all these messages. So if it says something like thank you in the message, you're probably good, because that's what the bots are looking for. But other than that, don't hit no response needed unless an Amazon rep sitting there reading it would agree with you that the issue was handled. And I really think it's just about being super proactive. I personally have interacted with and heard multiple suspended seller stories, and I have yet to see or of a single suspended seller where I was like, okay, you did nothing wrong, and they flushed you down the toilet. Now, they may have not done wrong enough to get suspended, in my opinion, but nearly every single time there were ways they could have been more careful, they cut corners, there were problems, and they just didn't head it off the pass. And no ASIN, feedback, message, or even money, really, is worth losing your Amazon account.
Yep, so you guys heard it. A lot of really good tips coming from these experienced sellers. Hopefully this show has helped you out and added some value to your life. Let's end it with one last question, because we never really talked about having a plan B too much. Any advice for anybody out there who's 100% Amazon and they want to do something else, reselling, to be able to minimize risk? Any ideas, any thoughts? We'll start with Jason.
One, obviously take advantage of your local places like OfferUp. There's a million other places like that where you're not going to have to worry about if your OfferUp account gets banned, that's okay. You'll be okay. You can move on to another one. Also, if you're kind of worried about, you know, the income of losing, you know, Amazon, if you get a lot of brands restricted, or maybe you already have, unfortunately, there's quite a few people in that gray area that are thinking about going back to work. If you're even thinking about going back to work for your family, now would be a good time to, you know, get your resume together, put your feelers out, start looking at the market, because the best time to look for a job is when you either have a job like Amazon or you don't need a job. So be proactive about it, because nobody likes the rug pulled out from underneath them.
What are your thoughts on that, Jonathan? eBay, Etsy, any other platforms you're looking to experiment with? Are you sticking with Amazon?
I'm pretty solid with Amazon. I use just Joe Lister to sell a little bit on eBay. I'm keeping an eye on Walmart and Jet, and I probably will eventually add them as well. I'll be honest, if Amazon just completely shut down as a website tomorrow, I would probably go back to Bricklink, selling Lego parts, just because that's what I know, and it still allows me that freedom. It's not as lucrative as Amazon, but at the end of the day, it still would allow me to run my own business, and I have, some connections and experience there. I'm not going to say I would go out and get a job. If my choices were selling full-time on eBay and going to get a job, I'm just going to be honest, I would really have to think about it, because eBay to me, I enjoyed what I did, and eBay is difficult for me. Just the processes and having to do the fulfillment, it's not my first choice. But it really comes down to what you want. And if what you want is to never punch an alarm clock for any job, then you have to figure out whether it's eBay or you do what you got to do. If like Robert, you like your job and it's it's worth it, then you got to do. Reselling does not by default mean it's perfect or what makes you happy. You got to do what makes you happy and what's best for you. The trick is you need to do what makes you happy. Don't be forced into it, like Jason said. When the end arrives and you're out of time and you have no choice. So as long as whatever I ultimately decide to do, I have time and I get to choose, as opposed to some online platform making me do it, then I'm pretty much okay with wherever I wind up.
Yep. So really, at the end of the day, guys, plan. We didn't want this show to be, run away from Amazon. There's no money to be made. It's all over. That's not the case at all. Really, at the end of the day, one thing I want everyone to realize is when you're playing on another person's playground or sandbox, whatever you want to call it, things are going to change. You're going to have to change. If you're not willing to change, if you're not willing to adapt, you're going to get squashed. You're going to get left behind. And I think it's pretty evident that Jonathan, Jason, and Robert are all willing to change and adapt. And I think that's one of the main reasons why they've been so successful. And I truly believe they will continue to be successful as well. So if you guys enjoyed this video, smash that like button, show some love. Any final words, starting with Robert? Any final words in terms of the restrictions or just advice for people, plan B? Or,
I got to agree with Jason. You should always be putting feelers out. That said, I also agree with John. It's not about going back to quote-unquote work. It's about doing what you want to do, and that's kind of why I'm going back to work. I'm probably going back to work at this firm I found, because it's what I want to do. It's not about punching a clock. I mean, even when I was working in finance, I wasn't punching a clock. I was coming in when I felt like it. Occasionally it was 10 a.m. Most of the time it was 7 a.m. and I was leaving when I felt the need to leave. Sometimes it was 5. Most of the time it was 7:30, 8, whatever. But I would go have dinner, do things, hang out, and then I'd do a little bit more work. But it's just like, and I will say that I think you if you re-enter quote unquote the workforce after having done Amazon for a year, 2 years, like Raiken. I mean, Raiken would fit in at any office building in New York City. I mean, with the professionalism he has, and you just have a different work ethic once you've survived on Amazon for months and years. Your work ethic completely changes from having worked at, no offense, Raiken, Cracker Barrel.
I was just going to say, I'm not going to New York.
Yeah.
I'm going to Cracker Barrel, man.
Yeah. No, I mean, your work ethic when you work at a Cracker Barrel, I'm sure it's nowhere near where it is now. I'm sure. And even me, my work ethic now, even though I did have quite a good work ethic when I was working in finance before, is nowhere near where it used to be. It is through the roof. And with this new firm, all I see is nothing but opportunity. I mean, the politics will not mean anything to me. And that's kind of thing a lot of people hate, I guess, with working in a firm or working in a big company. But I mean, it's all about what you want to do. And that I still enjoyed selling on Amazon, and I will continue to do it probably until they kick me off, and or until I get kicked out of the green room.
All I know is at the end of the day, I will see you at the water cooler. What are your thoughts, Jonathan?
I would say just one small tip, and this is certainly not a guarantee, but something that I've noticed up to this point, at least, most of the brands that have been restricted for some people and not for others seem to be because that person has obviously a good account, but also they have sold in that category. So if it's me, and especially if I'm a new seller, I'm looking at all the brands I might ever even think I might want to sell in, and I'm trying to find at least one item I can send in. Because at this point, it seems like I was talking to a new seller last week, and they had sold one Wilton cake pan ever, and they were ungated in it. And I've never sold them, and I am gated in it. So apparently, selling something in that category at least once is helpful. So if you're a new seller, I'd look at any brands you might consider. I might send in one pair of shoes for each brand that's open. I would really just consider seeing how many brands you can dabble in. Just as worst case scenario, they gated anyway and it did you no good. But best case, one day you might have an account that is the only one that can still sell in this particular category. Because I'm telling you right now, even some of us who are ungated in like Lego or Nike or any of it, those accounts are in themselves worth a lot of money now if they keep them ungated. Because you're never going to get an authorization letter to sell in those categories, even if you do want to pay the $1,500 or whatever the fee is now. So get in some other brands, and obviously it's there's a lot of categories like grocery that you should be trying to really diversify in, because that seems a lot safer at the moment to me.
A closing comment on the restrictions. Like I said earlier in the show, make sure you call Amazon and complain about the way they're doing it. If you don't expect any change. Be reasonable about your complaint, though. Don't just complain. It's not fair.
Don't ask for Jeff Bezos, huh?
Yeah. Although you can email him, and there's an executive group that reads his stuff and may get back to you.
Wow. Cool. Well, great tip right there. Jason, closing statement.
Just find out what floats your boat. Follow your dreams. Whatever you do, make sure you do that's going to make you happy. You and your family. I like what I do now. Obviously, I work very hard, but it's getting me from point A to point Z, and point Z is the dream. So whatever that dream is for you, whether it's just being a wonderful parent or a great reseller or just staying out of the corporate world, whatever works for you, just figure it out. And if this happens to go away or you decide to get off this platform, there's a million other platforms. It's just going to make you move it up a little bit. It's kind of like a detour. You're still going towards your location, to your destination. You're just going to have to go a different path to get there. So don't lose sight of your path no matter what happens.
Awesome final words right there. So if you guys have enjoyed this video, hit the like button. Definitely appreciate that. If you guys want to get to know Jason, Robert, and Jonathan more, consider joining the Green Room, greenroomuniversity.com.
I only talk to people in the Green Room.
Yeah, it's one of those places where if you want to get access to these higher sellers and you want to become friends with them, the easiest way is to join the Green Room because it seems like a lot of the Green Room members really do stick with one another, and I think that was the case even at the wholesale trade show. Wasn't that you had like 25 Green Room members over there? And I regret
we
not
shunned
going.
anyone who wasn't there in the Green Room. We shunned them.
Anyways, guys, we appreciate you. See you in the next Green Room show. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Thanks, everybody on the panel, and we will see you guys soon. Take care and have a good night.